Digital media is changing not only the way we communicate, but also how and what we read. So for example, we see lots of different electronic devices. We see smartphones, we see tablets, we see Nooks, we see references to podcasts. All of these things have distinct advantages and disadvantages in the digital world for telling stories, for communicating information to us. Here's a prime example of why this is very important that we study digital literature and how we make meaning out of digital literature. So we see this toddler, and she's very capable of interacting with an iPad. She can swipe, she can click on the icons, she can enlarge something and make something else smaller, but when it comes to a magazine, she's a little confused by exactly how it works. For her, that confusion is going to be clarified as she grows up and becomes more familiar with print media. However, the students in our classrooms, our children, and even us as global citizens can no longer ignore the presence of digital literature in our lives. eMarketers released a study in 2013 that said the average American spends 5.5 hours a day using digital media and reading in digital literature and text. 5.5 hours. They only spend half an hour reading traditional print media. This is one of the reasons why it is so important that we study this. But as you can see, this is not necessarily a new idea. There has been almost 400 million, if you do a quick Google search on digital literature and reading, almost 400 million different sites that you can find. And it's been widely researched in terms of how we read differently, how the brain processes the information, how we comprehend things. But what hasn't been looked at very much is how digital literature uses its various tools to create or to alter meaning. So for instance, let's think of something. Let's think of an octagon, and it's on a signpost, and that octagon is red. We don't need to see the word stop. We don't need to read the word stop to know that that is telling us to stop at this particular place. That's a mode. The color and the shape are tools that the sign is using to communicate with us exactly what it wants us to do. Digital literature works the same way. They have various modes. They're multimodal. For instance, they use text, they use color, they use music, they use sound, they use video. All of those things make them multimodal. All of those things help to layer and add meaning to and for the reader. But there's also some problems with multimodal literature. So for example, if we take a look at this video, we clearly see a shark swimming, the fins in the water, and for me, as somebody who has a deep and illogical fear of sharks, this causes my anxiety to raise just a little bit. But it's just a picture, it's just video, so I'm not getting too worried. But what happens if we add another mode? What happens if we add another way to communicate to the reader some information or something that we want them to learn? How is that going to change our understanding and our thinking about this video? Now my tension's beginning to rise because I know what's coming. I know this Jaws music almost always signifies somebody is going to get eaten by the shark. And for me, it causes a lot more anxiety because I know any minute now it's going to happen. But what if we change the mode again? What if we add something that's a little more odd? How does the fact that now we're listening to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star change our understanding of the shark fin in the water? This is the kind of thing that multimodal text can do that traditional text can't. My project is going to be a case study that's going to look at 3 different digital texts. The first is MetaMouse. We're going to look at the CD-ROM that comes with MetaMouse. The CD contains both complete copies of the graphic novel Mouse by Art Spiegelman. Mouse is the story of Art's father, Vladek, who survived the concentration camps and his time in Nazi Germany. Mouse is also about their relationship and their struggle to come to terms with the tragedies that not only happened to Vladek in Europe, but also the tragedies that happened to Art and his family in the United States as well. What makes these really interesting is as we are looking at these complete pages on this in this digital format, we also have the ability to pull up recorded interviews. We can hear Vladek talk. We can pull up photographs that show what he looked like back then, what he looked like just before he passed away. We can look at video of Art's travels and his research that he was doing. The second is a book. It's a video book, and it uses Sherlock Holmes stories, something that we're all probably very familiar with. Only as we're reading the text that Conan Doyle wrote, there are little hyperlinks. So we can click on one of the hyperlinks and it may take us to a definition of a word that has fallen out of use. It may take us to some pictures from the time that'll help us better understand it. Or it may link us to Google Earth and we'll be able to see what Trafalgar Square looks like right now. Or it may provide us some videos where experts are talking about what it was like to live in Victorian times, or how the times that Doyle was living in shaped and altered his stories. Finally, we're going to look at Pottermore. Pottermore is a website that's described as a unique online experience from J.K. Rowling, and it focuses on the Harry Potter series. Not only can you find the complete Harry Potter series on Pottermore in electronic form, but you can also find other additional material. You can find short stories or additional information, background on the characters or the events that you can't find anywhere else. You can find interactive games and other videos that will help you to experience the Harry Potter world a little bit more fully. Rowling herself, when she premiered Pottermore, said that it was going to be an incredible multimodal experience, and we're going to examine whether or not it's lived up to its promise. I'd like to thank you very much for your time and support and going ahead and watching this video. I hope you'll consider supporting my campaign. If you have any questions or if I can be of help in any other way, please let me know. One of the reasons I'm doing this is about 3 years ago I was in a car accident. It took 9 months to recover because I shattered my ankle and my foot. And so I wasn't able to finish my dissertation in the way I wanted to. And I'm hoping... Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this, and thank you very much for considering supporting this campaign. As a graduate student at Michigan State, I was almost near the end of my time there. I was beginning to work on my dissertation. My assistantship was going to end, and I was in a car accident about 2 months into my last year. It took 9 months to recover, both physically and emotionally, physical therapy, etc. But during that time, my assistantship ended, and I was not able to complete my dissertation. I want to use this summer to focus on it, to devote myself full-time to completing the dissertation and to ending this part of my educational career. I hope you're willing to support this. Please let me know if you have any questions or if I can provide any additional information. Thank you very much for viewing.